The views and opinions expressed on the Veterans in Politics show and podcast are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of Vegas All Night Radio, its affiliates, or its parent company.
This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. Today's guests, we're going to have Steve Ross, Las Vegas City Councilman, representing Ward Number 6. And we're going to talk to him a little bit about his special election and what he has done for the city of Las Vegas since he took over back in, I believe it was 2005, if my memory serves me correctly. But we have a lot to talk about, Jim.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, first, I want to let everybody know that last week's show is archived, so you guys could go and take a look at last week's show. When we had both guests, was MIA, and I was really pissed off about that.
Yeah.
And then Heidi had to step in and talk politics with you. And
Heidi and I had a good conversation, though.
Yeah.
It's always fun when you get a conservative Republican and a liberal Democrat together.
But she's a tree hugger Democrat, though.
It's all right.
Yeah.
We actually.
How does she even get along with you, being in the same room?
One thing that I've learned to not be quite so idealistic at times, and if you slow down and really just sit down and have a conversation. This is a lecture to politicians in general. If you actually just take a step back, slow down, and listen to somebody else's perspective, and they do the same to you, you actually find out that you actually agree on more things than you disagree on.
Yeah, that's true. You know what, Jim? I want to dedicate today's show, to Chester Falk, who's a U.S. Marine that fought in the Battle of Iwo Jima. And he was one of the founders of the Marine Corps League here in Las Vegas. He died on December 31st at the age of 89. And anybody that wants to attend his funeral is going to be at the Boulder City Cemetery on Thursday, January 12th at 1400, 2 p.m. for all you civilian folks out there. And it's going to be a full honors funeral. And he was probably one of the last Iwo Jima fighters, probably one of the last ones that was still alive. And apparently I spoke to his wife this morning, and he had a fall and broke his hip, and then he just never recovered after that. So just want to put a shout out there. Let's do a moment of silence for him as well. Well, you know, I had that trip up in Reno and Carson City area, and I went up there to be interviewed with Fox News. The show was called Nevada Matters, Tipping Point with Boone Cutler, who was the host. And while I was there, you know, I made arrangements to meet with our executive branch of leadership, and the Secretary of State, Ross Miller, open arms, welcoming. We had a nice little sit-down meeting. The treasurer, Kate Marshall, we had to make amends for something that took place a couple of elections ago, and that was interesting. And then we met with the state controller, Kim Wallen, and went across the street and met with the assistant attorney general, because Catherine Mastos was in Vegas at the time. Keith Monroe. Met with him. In fact, he used to be general counsel for Governor Gwynn at the time when I last met him. And went over to the governor's office, and they had nobody to meet with me. And the governor wasn't there. Apparently, he was at Disneyland at the time. You know, you got to take those special trips out. Mm-hmm. And Lieutenant Governor Krolicki, he wasn't there either. And matter of fact, his office was locked up the whole day.
Was he in China again?
I don't know where he was. Maybe he was just chilling somewhere. Yeah. You know what? I found out, too, that the lieutenant governor's position is a part-time job. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that, but it doesn't surprise me, being that the legislature here in Nevada is a part-time legislature.
Part-time job. But his office is supposed to be open to welcome the public.
Right.
And there was no one there. It was locked up, and I was pretty annoyed by that. And here, not looking at the political party aspect of it, but here you are. You have 4 Democrats that are leadership in the executive branch, and you got 2 Republicans that are leadership in the executive branch, and the 4 Democrats welcome the veterans in politics, and the 2 Republicans did not.
Right.
What does that tell you?
Well, I guess if you look at it from a pure partisan standpoint, maybe it's that the Democrats are there more often, but when they could spend more time in their office, but that doesn't necessarily mean they get more done. So maybe the Republicans are just more efficient.
You think so?
That's the only thing I can come up with. I'm digging here.
Oh, you're digging really hard. Maybe I have to talk to Chuck Booth about that.
Councilman Ross is trying not to laugh too hard on that one.
Let's talk.
Hey, I'm doing what I can here.
Let's talk.
Trying to help him out.
Let's talk a little bit about the district attorney stepping down, David Roger.
Right.
Now, you know something, Jim. You have 12 police shootings last year alone in 2011.
Right.
Fatalities, right? Was it 12? Was it 12 fatalities?
I believe 12 is correct.
Now, the district attorney's office is the office that investigates police shootings, and they have their deputies go to court inquest.
Right.
Okay. This is the same guy that stepped down, and 2 days later he becomes the general counsel for the Police Protective Union. And shouldn't there be some kind of negotiations probably all through 2011 for him to even get that far? So isn't that a conflict of interest? You have the DA that's investigating police shootings, and then he becomes the general counsel for the Police Protective Union.
Yeah, you could consider that a conflict of interest. Maybe what the legislature should do is just devise a law, kind of like what Commissioner Giuliani on the county commission has suggested, just a cooling off period.
Well, there wasn't no cooling off period.
Well,
I mean,
no, there probably should be.
They probably say, "Hey, he thinks just like us. We should just hire him to defend us."
No,
but it just doesn't make sense to me. And speaking of police shootings, my perspective, and I was running this all up north when I was talking to those folks up there, is that the district attorney's office should not investigate police shootings. I think it should be either the AG's office or the Justice Department.
Right.
That's just my feeling on it.
That makes sense, and then that way you don't have basically people that are involved with the police department investigating the police department. That just doesn't make much sense.
Exactly. So I was just a little thrown back from it that here we are, David Roger, who is a registered Republican, by the way.
Yes,
I thought Republicans didn't believe in unions anyways.
Oh no, it's not that Republicans don't believe in unions. They only believe in unions that help Republicans.
I see.
Right.
But the Police Protective Union is probably going to help him.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I guess we shall see. And you know that they're looking at State Senator Mike Robeson to be the whip of the Senate in the next legislative session. And rumor says, and I just say rumor says, this is what I heard, that he asked for Elizabeth Housett, was the state senator, to step down to turn in her resignation because of the recent police arrest of her husband for gross lewdness, right, and the apparent unmoral or unethical, affairs, right, that she had. And one of the write-ups with Chuck Muth was saying that how could she go after Dennis Nolan for moral and unethical stuff when she beat him in the last election, and here she is doing it herself. Right. What do you think about that?
Well, it's pretty interesting that Chuck Muth would go after Elizabeth anyway because he's one of her strongest supporters.
Apparently, he kind of like pulled the trigger on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got anything to say?
About that? Or
about anything? You got a rant?
Yeah, I have something that really upset me deeply this week.
What, was it Irma? She upset you?
No, it wasn't Irma.
Okay.
No, so you've had your fun with going after Republicans, so now you get to go after a Democrat. Okay.
Who are you going to go after?
Yeah, President Obama.
You're always going after President Obama.
I don't always go after the guy, but So why? Okay, so there's this old adage that if you do not understand your history, you're doomed to repeat it. So why do we continue to repeat bad history? And what I'm talking about is this week he announced a $500 billion budget cut to the Defense Department.
Yeah, apparently he's going to cut about 100,000 troops.
So here's the thing. And actually, it's not necessarily going after Obama. I'm just going after the historical relevance to this. Okay, so let's go all the way back to World War I. Okay. We did not want to get involved in World War I. It was Europe's war. Okay. So our military was like 4th or 5th in the world, and it was depleted, and we didn't have the military we should have. And then, so we had to build it up. We got involved in World War I. We know what happened there. Same thing happens after World War I. We cut the military again. Then we get attacked. Pearl Harbor. We have to build up the military again. Okay, in order to fight World War II. Once we decided to get into it, then the whole Vietnam conflict starts. The whole Cold War. So we build up our military forces. Then once the Soviet Union falls, then Bush Sr., after the first Gulf conflict, he cuts the military way down. And then Clinton continues to do it.
Clinton cut it, yeah.
Yeah. Then September 11th happens, and now what? Now Bush has to spend all this money to build the military back up again. So now we get the military built back up again. We're doing a good job with the war on terrorism. And I'm not talking about Iraq, the whole Iraq thing, because I don't agree with the Iraq conflict.
It's a whole lot bigger than that, Jim, because here you have 100,000 troops, and I bet you most of those they're going to push out on medical discharge, okay? That's an easy way to get rid of them. Yeah. That probably have served in combat, that have TBI or PTSD going on, and put them in a society that has no jobs. And the veteran administration taking 1.5 to 2 years to even approve their claim. So you're going to have more chaos. And this is what I say, because I remember when I was when we were pitching the Veterans Court to the judges, and I was talking about this PTSD is going to be crazy. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And then here we are, Stanley Gibson, trapped in the car, shot dead, PTSD, and that soldier up in Washington State who killed a park ranger, shot, PTSD, and then you had another soldier in Utah. They raided his house, right? Because he was smoking some weed. He was self-medicating himself with PTSD, which I think marijuana should be illegal. Okay. Self-medicate himself, PTSD, they raided his house. What did he do? He killed one cop and wounded 6 of them. PTSD again. I think 90% of our prison system has people that are in there just for drugs. I think they should. It is pretty high. I think they should go and parole all those people and put them on some kind of medical program, get them out the prison system, and have true criminals in there. Because what do? You take somebody for smoking weed or having an ounce of marijuana, you arrest them, and then they weren't a criminal before they went in there, but they're going to be a criminal time they leave.
So basically, you're putting them in criminal college, and
exactly, you're teaching them how to become criminals because it's survival in prison. But I don't know. I don't think people are just scared to say things like that. Because they don't want their political status might be damaged or something,
Yeah, that could be the case, or just they don't put as much thought into it as they should.
Maybe. They're scared of what people might think of them or their re-election and all that. Or maybe they want to go to another seat that's higher than the one that they originally are in.
Could be.
I don't know. But see, that's why I'll probably never get elected. I'm too damn blunt.
Yeah. Me either.
You got anything else to say?
No, other than I just think it's a bad idea to cut.
It is a bad idea.
I mean, I think that we've just become. I mean, I understand that there's a growing sentiment in the country that we shouldn't be the world's police, but that's been there for a while. And if we need to evaluate some bases around the world and close some bases and restructure where the troops are set because of changing, conflicts or threats in the world, that's fine. But to cut $500 trillion from the Defense Department, or $500 billion, I'm sorry, it's just a little much for me.
Yeah. And I before we take a commercial break and talk to Councilman Ross, I just want to let everybody know that don't forget to get your tickets for the Veterans Valentine's Day Ball for February 11th at the Plaza. Go to veteransinpolitics.com. to purchase your tickets for that, or purchase a table, or whatever the case might be. And don't forget that we have Sheriff Doug Gillespie, who's going to be coming on the show on January 28th. So that should be interesting.
Yeah, it should.
I know Irma probably has a whole bunch of questions for him that she probably wants to write down.
Or a couple tickets she needs fixed or something.
Probably something like that. All right, this is Steve Sanson and Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. Don't go away, folks. We'll be back momentarily with Councilman Steve Ross.
This public service announcement is brought to you by Veterans in Politics International. The Veterans in Politics mission is to teach, educate, organize, and awaken our veterans and their families to select, support, and vote intelligently for a better world, and to protect ourselves from our own governments and a culture of corruption, and to be the political voice for those in other groups that do not have one.
There are too many homeless veterans, and more help is needed from the VA. Every veteran service organization post should adopt a local homeless veteran.
The funding of VA medical centers is inadequate, and building a VA hospital in Southern Nevada is moving at a slow pace. The budget has been flatlined for too many years. The VA is too quick to deny claims and too slow to help veterans gather records in support of claims.
Local politicians ignore veterans and their issues. They perceive a lack of organization among their local veterans, and that it won't hurt them at election time. Veterans too often vote party, not veteran issues. All veterans should vote in every election.
The news media give inadequate coverage to veteran issues and events. You must send letters to the editor and voice this concern.
Please contact your members of Congress and Senate and urge them to co-sponsor key legislation in supporting our veterans.
Please support Veterans in Politics. And to get more information, go to www.veteransinpolitics.com.
While growing up, I've always asked my family, who is my father? I was told the name of a man. When I became older, I looked for this man and found him. He thought that I was his son as well, but after a DNA test, it was discovered that my family was lying to me all my life. I pressured my family to give me the real identity of my father. I then became suspicious and took my grandfather's DNA. After I buried my grandfather, 2 days later, I discovered that my grandfather was, in fact, my biological father. I questioned myself and asked, what is my purpose on this earth? I should have never been conceived. But when I look at my 4 children, I knew that everything happens for a reason. This is Steve Sanson. Find your identity.
All right, great. Then it's a date. As Miss Nevada, my schedule can be really busy at times, but there is one activity I had to put on my calendar, and that's the Veterans Valentine Ball and Gala. February 11th is your chance to help local veterans meet with the state's dignitaries and feel the love for Valentine's Day. So bring your sweetheart down to the Plaza Hotel on February 11th at 5:30 p.m. for a dinner, dance, and silent auction. Visit veteransinpolitics.com by December 30th to purchase your tickets. I've got my date. Do you?
Well, we're back. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jonas of Veterans in Politics, and we have live in studio Steve Ross, who's the Las Vegas City Councilman representing Ward number 6. And we could also add that he was a candidate for Las Vegas mayor as well, Jim.
Yes.
Yes.
Not so long ago, guys.
Councilman, how are you, sir?
Thanks for having me on the show today, Jim, Steve, Irma. Thanks for being here, too.
And you know what? You're starting out our first show of the year, so I hope it's a really big bang.
Well, I can go in all sorts of directions.
Well, could you give us a bio of yourself?
Well, Steve, you know, and I for your listeners' behalf, I grew up here in the city of Las Vegas. Went to elementary school, high school, college, went to UNLV. I went to UNR for a year and came back to UNLV. Joined the electrical union years and years ago, 25 years ago, as a matter of fact. I'm by trade a master electrician with the IBW Local 357. My wife and I contracted for 10 years as an electrical contracting firm. Been very active in the community all my life. active with sports, coached Little League for 7 years in 3 different Little League divisions, active with the Las Vegas area Boy Scouts, who used to be the Boulder Dam Area Council, now it's the Las Vegas Area Council. I've been a scout all my life. I'm still a Boy Scout today. I serve on their executive board, having a great time doing that. We're doing a lot of great things for the young men in this community, and we want to keep that up. Scouting builds character, and we certainly need better characters in all levels of service in this community and throughout the country, as a matter of fact. So I've got 5 great kids. I have 8 grandchildren, and 1 more on the way, makes number 9. And they're all doing real well, raising their families. They all live out in the Northwest, out in Ward 6. So I'm very blessed, count my blessings every day. My wife still loves me and lets me serve this community in whatever way I can. So I hope that kind of summed it up for you, Steve.
Yeah, you know what? Speaking of the Northwest, I was talking to Jim earlier today while we were driving over here, and I was told by folks that actually doing research on these police shootings that has been taking place, that said that a lot of the officers from the Northwest Command was involved in the police shooting, and apparently a lot of the officers that had internal disciplinary action in Metro, they moved them from other stations to the Northwest Command, which is on the 215 and West Cheyenne. And I live in the Northwest Command. You live in the Northwest Command. So that means we're probably going to have one of those disciplinary cops that didn't make it in other commands knocking at our door. How do you feel about that?
Well, let me share my experience with you in the Northwest Area Command. Since I was elected in 2005, they're on their 3rd captain in the Northwest Area Command. These guys move around on a regular basis to kind of get a feel of the entire city, and that was not currently under Sheriff Gillespie, but the previous sheriff at that time. But I work very closely with the Northwest Area Command, and I've got to tell you something. I have never, ever heard of or experienced myself any bad experiences with any of the officers. The COPs out there, I'm currently on the School Safety Action Committee, which is the culmination of both the Clark County School Police, which they have their own issues, a lot of the administrators in the high schools and junior high schools out in the Northwest, and in the Metropolitan Police Department Northwest Area Command. Now, their command is huge. I can't remember the exact square miles, but it's phenomenal. They go all the way to Charleston Boulevard and everything to the north and to the west of that. I mean, it's a huge command, and there are not a whole lot of officers, on the streets at all times, and that's kind of frustrating for me because public safety is my number 1 priority, has been since I got elected in 2005. So I don't know if I can answer that correctly, Steve, or the right answer you're looking for. I really have a great I just want
the honest answer.
Yeah, I have a great relationship with all of those officers, all the men and women in our police department. The Northwest Area Command captains have been phenomenal working with my office, working with my constituents. I have nothing bad to say about any of them.
Well, what's your boundary lines, Councilman?
My boundaries, Ward 6 is the Great Northwest, Centennial Hills area. It goes kind of from Cheyenne to the south and meanders up Ann Road, kind of goes up Lone Mountain Road. To the west boundary is the Red Rock Conservation Area. I go all the way up Kyle Canyon, up to 2 sections up Kyle Canyon, a couple of miles. I go all the way out around the Paiute Indian Reservation. That's my northern boundary. Then the eastern boundary would be Decatur Boulevard, which I share the boundary with North Las Vegas right there. So I've got the largest geographical ward in the city of Las Vegas. We currently have about 120 to 130,000 residents in the Northwest, where the other wards are experiencing about 92 to 96,000 residents in each ward.
Councilman, how often do they re-gerryman those districts?
We redistricted in 2006, soon after I got elected in 2005, out of necessity. That is where the city is growing. It's growing to the northwest. We're landlocked, of course, with North Las Vegas and the county to the south. So that's the growth area, and we're going to continue to grow in that direction, out US 95 into the Centennial Hills and beyond. So we are right now looking at redistricting now. However, there's a little snafu in the system because apparently I'm going to be recalled. I've been recalled, and I have to go to a recall election on January 31st. So until we get that resolved, we're not going to move any boundary lines just yet.
So for our listeners that aren't aware of the recall process, how was it that you How did this recall process start?
Well, it's interesting. You guys were talking about Democrats and Republicans and sitting on their hands and not doing their jobs and the whole nine yards. And I'm not going to certainly make any comments about any of them. I've got my own thoughts and feelings on bipartisan stuff. But I was elected to do things.
Right.
I wasn't elected to sit on my hands and worry about my next reelection, not cross paths with people that are going to hurt me politically. That's not what I was elected for. You know, growing up here, raising your kids here, running a business here, I get it. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here for the long run. My wife will probably bury me in my backyard. So, unfortunately, a businessman in the Northwest, Joe Scala, used car salesman, wanted a sweetheart deal for his dealership out of Centennial Hills. I told him I'd work with him. I tried to work with the other car dealers to help him get resolved.
Right.
He didn't like the way I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it himself and wanted that sweetheart deal, and I wouldn't give it to him. I work with all of the businesses in the Northwest equally. I want them to be successful. I want them to make money. I want them to employ people. I want them to continue to grow. I mean, jobs is what we need right now. And you were talking about, what President Obama is doing with our national defense. Goodness sakes, we need to prioritize right now. And right now in the city of Las Vegas, my number one priority, always public safety. The next number one priority is putting people back to work.
So one other thing I wanted to ask you too, just a follow-up question. I followed the mayor race fairly closely. How did you feel as a sitting city councilman and all that you have done for the city of Las Vegas? And I want to thank you very much for that, by the way.
Thanks, Jim.
You are definitely a standard bearer that a lot of politicians would follow. So I just want to make sure you know that.
Thank you.
But
until he throws another question at you.
No, but I mean, honestly, how did you feel when? I mean, I was astonished at how many people announced and ran for mayor.
Yeah.
How did you feel that whole process? It just seemed like everybody came out of the woodwork and decided to run.
Well, I think there were 15 candidates in the mayor's race. And you know what? I guess that says a lot about our system and the democracy, Republican democracy we live in. It's good for people to get involved and get active. So I think it was a positive sign. The big players were there at the top, and those that wanted to get their name out there. I don't think they just wanted to get their name out there. I think they truly care about their community and had their own ideas about getting things done. So I actually applaud anybody who puts their name on a ballot. As you've seen me go through the trials and tribulations as a public servant here in the city of Las Vegas, it's a tough thing to do, to throw your name out there, put your family on the line, put your reputation on the line, and do what you believe is the right thing for this community.
Didn't they try to get ethics violation against you once before for being on the what was that? The treasurer. You were treasurer.
Yeah, for a short time I ran the Southern Nevada Building and Construction Trades Council, which is a 16 construction union organization underneath the umbrella of the AFL-CIO, and I ran that for 3 years. So yeah, they threw some allegations at me. They were totally unfounded.
What was the verdict of that one?
Well, there has been no written opinion yet. Okay. The Ethics Commission has not written an opinion. They shared an opinion at the time of the hearing that I should have disclosed and abstained on 2 votes, which I did exactly what the Las Vegas city attorney told me to do. Right. He knew my positions on all of these construction projects. I shared my positions on all these construction projects.
Is that Brad Jerbick?
That'd be Brad Jerbick, yeah. So, Brad and I sat in front of the Ethics Commission, and Brad flat out told him, I told Las Vegas City Councilman Steve Ross to vote exactly the way he did. He is not at fault for doing this. So I always cross my T's and dot my I's. I'm very careful with those votes.
All right, Councilman, this car dealership, why does this person have such a problem with you? And let me add, doesn't he need? I know the Secretary of State said that they have enough signatures to recall another election on you. How many signatures do they need?
They needed 1,084 signatures, and in the first attempt failed. They did not collect the right amount of signatures. This time they barely made it over the line and lied to and misled 100 more of my voters to sign the petition. And it's funny, mentioning that, it reminds me, after the petition went through and the Secretary of State qualified it, I started getting emails and phone calls stating, Councilman, we only signed it so they'd leave us alone. They were really out there hammering these people over and over and over again.
Councilman, to be honest with you, I was approached to sign the signatures, and I never did it. And I know Heidi was approached as well, and she didn't do it. Because we personally believe that you're doing a good job as city council.
Well, and you know me, Steve. 6. You and Heidi both know me,
and I've known you all these years. Yeah. I mean, I ran against you back in 05, and we became buds, and I didn't want to sign it. Why would these 1,084 people? Why didn't they just do exactly what I did?
They were misled. And if you've got a petition gatherer at your door harassing you, bugging you, knocking on your door 3 or 4 times, calling you time and time
You'll
again.
just do whatever to get them out of there.
Yeah, you'll sign that thing to get them off your doorstep. So I could have challenged this last petition drive easily in court, and I looked at it with my team and thought, you know what? I am proud of the record that I've got in Ward 6. I've worked very hard, continue to work hard for the residents in Ward 6, and no one will work harder than I am doing right now for the residents in the Northwest. And I hope the person who follows me works twice as hard as I do, because the people in the Northwest deserve that kind of representation. So I'm proud of that record. I'm willing to run on that record again. And so we just let it go through, and we're going to make this thing work.
But apparently they have no one as of this time to run against you. And when they do find somebody to run against you, how many signatures do they need to get that person on the ballot?
The same amount. They need 1,084 signatures from registered voters who voted in the last general election.
If they don't, you'll be on the ballot by yourself?
I'll be on a ballot all by myself.
You can just vote for yourself, right?
Well, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And, my biggest challenge is getting people to leave the house and go vote.
Okay. Well, we have a caller on the line. Caller?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. Welcome, Councilman Ross. I am a spokesperson for hundreds of victims of crime who were re-victimized when Metro chose not to investigate the crimes to us initially, and we were re-victimized by how Metro handled the crimes and did not prosecute the criminals. The reason I'm speaking about this is Steve Sampson has come out and stated that he is asking for the resignation of Sheriff Gillespie. We are throwing our support behind Steve. We are also asking for the resignation of Sheriff Gillespie, but for a different reason than Steve. Because the City Council funds the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, and 2 council members sit on the Fiscal Affairs Committee for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, we are concerned that what is happening to us, and we have police report after police report that has been falsified, is that Sheriff Gillespie is not paying any attention to us as we voice our concerns to him at the fiscal affairs meetings. Our next step, we would like to be put on the agenda for the council meetings that are coming up. There's 2 a month. And we would challenge you to put us on the agenda and to let us have dialogue with the council members as to why they continue to fund Sheriff Gillespie when people are calling for his resignation.
Well, first let me say this, if I may, just and I don't need to clarify anything, but just for general information. The City of Las Vegas does fund 40% of the Metropolitan Police Department's budget, and the county funds 60% of that budget. So roughly in those numbers. We do have 2 council members that do sit on that Fiscal Affairs Committee, and they certainly do the best we can. But your beef is not, from what I'm listening to, the issue is not with the actual budget or the police department in general, but the leadership. And I'm going to revert back to my general premise on our Republican democracy, if you will, that elections are there for a reason. If you don't like what your elected official is doing at the time, the sheriff is an elected position in this county, that you remove that individual when the time comes. That's what elections are for. And there's been some very heated sheriff's elections in the past several years that were very, very interesting. So I think that's the direction to go. I certainly respect your position and Steve Sanson's position, especially when it comes to our veterans who are suffering from PTSD. That's a big, big issue, not just in our community, but throughout the rest of the United States and any of our veterans that travel abroad. This is a big, big issue that I think the Veterans Affairs should certainly look at, and all local governments as well as local law enforcement agencies in regards to that. But an agenda item, and I love challenges. I'm not going to back down from a challenge. challenge, but you can always have that dialogue with the Las Vegas City Council. The mayor has an open door, as do all of our council members at the City of Las Vegas. We work very hard to have that kind of open door policy. There are two opportunities at all of the City Council meetings to stand up and discuss issues that are affecting the community. So I'm not quite sure an agenda item is necessary. You can certainly share your concerns at the public comment portions, both at the beginning and the end of both of all City Council meetings.
May I ask my question again, or state my challenge again? I am not asking about electing Sheriff Gillespie or not electing Sheriff. This has nothing to do with election. This has to do with the City Council funding, as you said, 40% of the City Council funding Metro. This has nothing to do with the elections. You said at the top of the show that your number one concern is public safety. It is our concern too. And the numbers that are being produced by Sheriff Gillespie's office is not that crime is going down. The reporting of crime is going down because of how victims of crime are being retaliated against by Sheriff Gillespie and his force. So I'm going to ask the question again. Will you put us on as an agenda item? Not because we're talking about elections. We're talking about the City Council is funding this behavior, and we want the City Council to stop funding this behavior. And the only way we can do that is to have open dialogue with the City Council. We've gone to the coffee things. We've gone to Mayor Goodman. We've gone to Brad Jervik. We have done all of that.
Well, caller,
even your office has a policy, practice, and procedure to intercept emails and never respond. Calls that we've made to your office are never responded to. And so we're asking you publicly, over public media, will you put us on the agenda so we can have open dialogue? Because the public comment section, as you know, because you sit there, Brad Jervik doesn't allow any council member to respond during public comment section. We need to be an agenda item because we need to have open dialogue with the council members. The council members can respond if we are an agenda item. They cannot if we're public comment.
Ma'am, let me stop you there. That's absolutely not true. Any council member can speak at any time. The city attorney doesn't tell us when we can and cannot speak. And I'm gonna clean something up right now for you. I respond to every one of my phone calls, every one of my emails, good, bad, or ugly, and I take that very personal for both myself and my staff. That is my internal policy. So I'm afraid I don't know whose office you've been calling, but it certainly hasn't been mine. So thank you very much for the call.
Councilman, but something very interesting popped out of that when I was listening. That caller was saying that the city of Las Vegas takes on 40% of Metro's budget. But doesn't the city of Las Vegas has its own police force?
We have our own marshals, absolutely, and they do a phenomenal job of what they do. We have our own marshals that patrol all of the city facilities, our parks, our city buildings. Right now we're doing a warrant service, trying to collect outstanding warrants to help generate some revenue for the city of Las Vegas. A lot of warrants have been out there for quite some time. We're trying to help people get those cleared up. We're trying to be a more customer-friendly city, as a matter of fact, as those marshals just aren't going out there arresting people. We don't want them in our jails. Right. We just want them to catch up on their fines and get their records cleaned up. And so we've been very active at doing that. So yeah, if you remember, Steve, it's been many years, and gosh, I can't remember what year it was that the city had its own police department, and the county had their own county sheriff's department. There was quite a bit of controversy when the two joined together to be the Metropolitan Police Department. There was a lot of people didn't like it, and it's kind of the way government's been going in the past several years, as they've kind of been working together and putting things together.
Well, Councilman, one of the things that I found interesting with the caller, and we do appreciate her calling in, but is it even legal for Las Vegas City Council just to decide not to fund 40% of Metro? Could you even do that?
It's not. We have to. It's got to
be a public safety issue.
It is a public safety issue, and all governments, the majority of budgets for every government in this country goes to public safety, not just the city of Las Vegas. And I appreciate what she was saying, but we don't have control over the management of that department. And I'm going to go back to elections. That's what elections are for. I've got there's a lot of great people on that department, but we as a city council, we don't direct the sheriff on how his people take reports. And I've heard no reports of any officers out in the field harassing victims, for crying out loud. They've been actually victims advocates and do everything they can, to my understanding, for the victims out there. We're a big city. There's 2 million people that live here in southern Nevada and 600,000 in the city of Las Vegas alone.
Councilman, how do you, when you turn on the news and you listen to all these police shootings that are going on, and believe me, I know officers should be able to protect themselves and the citizenry. But there comes a time that it just strikes people funny that they're acting more of a judge, jury, and executioner, and they're probably over judging or over challenging the citizenry of Clark County. I think that a lot of these officers are I've been in situations before, and sometimes fear keeps you alive. But the rules of engagement from what I did and from an officer on the streets are totally different. And I'm thinking that a lot of officers come out the academy scared. And when they approach a car, they're scared. And the first thing, they have no verbal commands. They can't verbalize exactly what they want from the accused, and they're just jumpy and trigger happy, or maybe not so much trigger happy, maybe more jumpy than trigger happy, but they're quicker to press that trigger than to have their demands met by the person that they want to put in custody, so to speak. As a public figure, and I've talked to a lot about this situation, how do you feel about what's going on with the Metropolitan Police Department?
Well, I think you kind of hit it on the head there, Steve. Think back to active combat and confrontations that you may have been in your career in the Marine Corps. And you made a comment about those police officers coming out of the academy, scared. I've got 2 family members that are police officers, and I want them to be scared every time they do a traffic stop, every time they interview a suspect. I want them to be scared because I love them, and I want them to come home every night to their families. I think even if you questioned the 20, 30-year veteran police officer, you're going to get that same response. Goodness sakes, they want to go home at the end of their shift. And I'm going to share a story with you that I'm not too proud of. I got pulled over when I was 16 years old. I got pulled over up on I-15, and my registration happened to be in my trunk. And he was a highway patrolman. It was dark outside. I just got off work. I was working 2 jobs at the time, and I got out of my car, opened my front trunk, and he had his gun right in my face. And it was that fast, and my life could have been over, and he would have probably been justified because I had a black thing in my hand and where my registration was. And it scared me to death, but it certainly made me aware of the challenges that those police officers go through. After that, I certainly got a ticket for speeding that night, but after that, he said, "Son, I think about one thing when I go to work, and that's going home." And so he was shaking the entire time. I felt terrible for being such a dumb kid at 16 years old and not thinking that through. But it taught me a valuable lesson. These guys and gals go to work every night or every day and probably worry about going home. Until you and I wear their boots, I don't know if I can answer that. Until, you think about the adrenaline. Just think about confrontations in your life, even in high school or junior high school that you've been in, and the adrenaline pumping, and, what do? You can't answer for the next guy standing next to you.
I could understand it, and I could respect that, Councilman, but maybe you're the wrong venue. Maybe I need to bring this up with the sheriff from the 28, but the last police shooting, I don't see any fear for the cops. None at all. With an AR-15 round, 7 of them, and 1 striking the suspect to the back of the head. It just doesn't strike me as somebody that was scared. Somebody that wants to go home.
Yeah.
That just strikes me as somebody that just wants to kill somebody.
Well, like I said, until you got their boots on and you're in that same situation, I can't answer for that. I hope to never, ever be in that position. I mean, my answer to any of that is flee. I don't want to be in that position. I want to be out of that position.
So, Councilman, I want to kind of change gears here a little bit. You ran for mayor, and so what's next? I mean, do you want to? I mean, I know the whole recall.
He told me he wanted to run for governor.
So yeah, we want to know what's next for Steve Ross, Las Vegas City.
Let me tell you what my sights are set on, and that's January 31st. Jim and I appreciate that. Steve had mentioned earlier in the show, during the rant session of the show, a lot of these people get elected to office thinking about the next office they're going to run for. That's not me. I love this city. I love what Oscar Goodman's done. I love what Carolyn Goodman's doing, and I'm right there behind her to back her up. He knew how I felt about this city going into the election, and I know he shared that with his wonderful wife, and now she's our mayor, and I back her up 110%. I ran because I care. I want tomorrow to be a better day. I want more jobs in this city. I want our businesses to thrive in this city, and we've got to do that. Now I'm in a great position, both on the Las Vegas Convention Visitors Authority and at the city council level, to help make those things happen.
So what specifically are you doing to make to bring business to Ward 6?
Well, for years I have been beating the table like crazy with our city management team, our guys in public works, our guys in business licensing, our guys in development services. We have got to make it easier to do business in this city. We have got to make it so easy that every corporation, every company, every wannabe startup wants to be in Vegas because it's easy to do business in Vegas. We're doing that right now. We just recently opened the Development Services Center at 333 North Rancho Road. 1 building, 1 stop, all the services in there. You walk in there, you pull a number, you get helped, and you're out the door. We are doing it right now, streamlining businesses. We've got to do more also. We've got to provide some tax incentives, if you will, or tax abatements, if you will. I know the state's they're doing this right now through the governor's office in regards to economic development. We've got to key in on specific sectors of industries we want to bring into the city. A lot of talk about diversification of our economy, and it's great to talk about, but we've really just got to do it. We got to bite the bullet, and if it's going to hurt for a while, so what? The end result is going to be a more diversified economy and more jobs for the people in the valley.
I had Councilman Tarkanian sitting right where you were, Councilman Ross, and she mentioned a water park up in the northwest area. Do you know anything about that?
I'm aware of a water park in the county, in the southwest area in the county, that may be coming to fruition, but I'm not aware of one in the northwest, though. And I think I know about that. Yeah. At least my daughter's been after me about it. So
yeah, Steve's obsessed with the water park. That's
I don't blame him. I liked Wet and Wild.
Well, let's take a commercial break and come back. This is Steve Sanson with City Councilman Steve Ross and Jim Jonas with Veterans in Politics. We'll be back momentarily.
Veterans in Politics takes a proactive approach to provide you, the veteran, with the political voice for which you fought and served.
Veterans in Politics is becoming the premier veteran organization of the 21st century, with political candidate interviews, insight, and endorsements.
Public speaking engagements in support of American values.
Radio shows to keep you updated on the latest in veteran and military support operations.
Providing job placement and business support. Go to veteransinpolitics.com today and do your part in defending liberty.
9711 Southeastern Avenue, Suite H1 is the place to be. Get yourself a treat. Come to M&Y Snowballs to beat the heat. More than 40 regular flavors, 8 sugar-free flavors, or your choice of 2 cream flavors. Stuff your snowball with soft-serve ice cream for $1 more. We have smoothies, soft drinks, cheese and nachos, and even more. New Orleans original flavor, all of which you can savor. We hope to see you there.
Hey, listen up. If you're a military veteran, if you're related to a veteran, or if you know a veteran, you'll enjoy the Veterans Reporter radio show every Thursday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. With me, I'm your host, Chuck N. Baker. Every week, we will explore veterans' issues and we'll have guests who will talk about topics of interest to and about the veterans community. And if you don't listen, you'll have to give me 20 push-ups.
All right, great. Then it's a date. As Miss Nevada, my schedule can be really busy at times, but there is one activity I had to put on my calendar, and that's the Veterans Valentine Ball and Gala. February 11th is your chance to help local veterans meet with the state's dignitaries and feel the love for Valentine's Day. So bring your sweetheart down to the Plaza Hotel on February 11th at 5:30 p.m. for a dinner, dance, and silent auction. Visit veteransinpolitics.com by December 30th to purchase your tickets. I've got my date. Do you?
We're back. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jonas for Veterans in Politics, and we have live in studio Steve Ross, Las Vegas City Councilman representing Ward number 6. Jim, go ahead. I know you got some more questions for the councilman.
Yeah, so Councilman Ross, again, going back to the mayor election, honestly, I wasn't surprised that Caroline won.
Yeah, I wasn't.
I kind of figured with the name recognition. I will say that I was impressed. I thought Commissioner Chris June Giuliani actually ran a good campaign against her, but I wasn't surprised. What's the difference between Oscar and Carolyn? Because when we had her on the show, I was very blunt with her. I said, isn't this just a way for Oscar to get around term limits?
You know, a lot of people have asked me that, you know, is the mayor actually behind, or is Oscar behind the scenes pulling the strings? Absolutely not. She is her own person, her own woman. She takes her job very seriously. She doesn't miss an opportunity to be at an event, at an opening. Like me, she returns emails and phone calls. I mean, she works very hard for the residents of the city. No, she's her own person, and this is her own term in her own office. So it's interesting to watch this and support her. And I only see Oscar every now and then at events, and he's trying to promote the city of Las Vegas through the LVCVA, and I think that's a great job for him. So no, he's not pulling the strings, Jim. She's doing her own thing.
So, Councilman, what would you? Since we only got about five minutes left, what is the number one issue affecting Ward 6, and what are you doing to resolve it?
Well, I attended a homeowners association meeting this morning, Jim. As a matter of fact, as I attend 2 or 3 of those a month. I have done that for 7 years since I got elected, and that's where I really get the information as to what's going on in the communities, and that's where I can really serve. Construction right now has been an absolute nightmare. We've got the widening of the 215 being done by Clark County between Tenaya and Decatur. They're going to shut the 215 down for several days between Decatur and Aliante on the 215. We've got the widening project on US 95, which is a Nevada Department of Transportation project. I've got current flood control projects in several locations out in the Northwest. Yeah. So, but this is what I remind people. If you see an orange cone or a backhoe or a piece of equipment, somebody has a job. And right now, that is probably the biggest priority in Ward 6, in the city of Las Vegas, in all of Nevada, is that people are working and can pay their bills, pay their mortgages, and feed their kids. That's the number one priority right now, other than public safety for me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the DA's race, though. You got 3 finalists, Drew Christensen, John Hunt, and Steve Wolfson, and I'm familiar with all 3 of them. But let's say, hypothetically, that Councilman Wolfson gets picked.
Well,
he represents what? Ward
4.
And
I'm sorry, Ward 2.
Ward 2. I don't live in Ward 2.
Yeah, Ward 2.
You don't live in Ward 2.
No, I don't.
But either Jim or myself would gladly take over that.
Well, that's probably what is going to happen. And I'm a fan of Councilman Wolfson's. He's done a phenomenal job representing his constituents in Ward 2. I work very closely with him. He's a man of integrity and a man of talent. He's a much better orator than I am. He speaks, that's the lawyer in him, I'm sure. I don't speak as well. I went to Western High School, so don't use that against me. But
yeah, I will, because I'm Clark Charter.
Okay, there you go. Okay, you're going to use it against me. But no, if should he get appointed to the DA's office, I think we would have to appoint somebody or hold a special election, and those are our options.
They have to live in that ward, huh?
They do have to live in that ward. So
that sucks, though, Councilman.
Well, you could, we could. I say we could, redistrict sooner than later, but I'm trying to get that done quick.
I want to be like the congressional race, or that you can live wherever, and just run for that particular office.
Well, Steve, you're doing great for this community. Jim, you are too. Everything that you guys do, representing veterans in politics, and I'm a big supporter of our veterans, and anything I can do for you, your organization, any of the other veterans organizations out there, I'm there.
Sure, we want you to to promote our ball, Councilman.
I am promoting your ball in my newsletter. Every 2 weeks it goes out electronically.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen it. Am I on your list?
It's in every one of my newsletters.
You on the Councilman's list?
No.
All right, you guys need to sign up. If you haven't signed up for my electronic newsletter, it goes out twice a month. There's information in there about things happening in your neighborhood, in your community, in the city of Las Vegas, and the Veterans Ball is also in there. Please contact my office, 229-6154, or certainly go to lasvegasnevada.gov, and you can sign on right there, and I'll get you that newsletter and let you know what's happening.
And could you let the listeners know when the city council meetings are being held?
City council meetings are the first and third Wednesdays of every month, and they start at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we finish up whenever we finish up. So thanks for having me on the show, guys.
Thank you, Councilman Russ, for being on the show. This is Steve Sampson, Jim Jonas for Veterans in Politics. Until next week, I believe we have Lou Tuman, who's the public information officer for the Las Vegas City Council's office. Oh, and that should be a doo-ha, huh, Jim?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. What about Spit and Polish Marine? Something about that? He made some kind of accusation on YouTube? We'll get to the bottom of that, Jim, won't we? That's right. Steve Sampson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. Until next week.